Morning is the most valuable time in life. According to the Vedas, every day is like an exam. The subtle energy body, also known as the body of desires, influences our future. How we live during a certain part of the day shapes our fate in our next life. According to the Vedas, morning is connected with a person's childhood. If a person wakes up early in the morning and prays, it means that they will receive a very favorable birth in their next life. They will be born where it's best for them. And if you are born where you need to be, it also means you will live where you need to be. That's why morning is considered the most valuable part of a person's life. If someone doesn't understand this, their life will take a different path. This is a crucial thing to understand. When the sun rises, a person should dedicate time to their education and learning because memory is activated during this time. From 6 to 8 in the morning, it's easy to memorize information. Between 8 to 10 in the morning, logical thinking is active. From 10 to 12 noon, willpower processes are activated. So if you need to make a decision that requires willpower, that is the best time to do it. If, for example, you want to do exercises that help balance your psychophysical state, the ideal time is between 6 and 8 in the morning. If you want to do exercises that are connected with activating physical energy and tone, then you should do these exercises from 8 to 10 in the morning. If you want to start working or engage in a task-related activity, then from 10 to 12 noon is the most productive window, if you have a choice. Now, many of you might say, I have no choice. I cannot pray in the morning because I work in the morning. This means that time has already started to constrain your life. Because when a person lives correctly in harmony with time, time itself contributes to changing their life for the better. This depends on spiritual efforts. I know someone who used to run a nightclub. They served vegetarian food there and shared a lot of valuable insights with people. He worked at night and he really enjoyed it because he felt he was offering a lot of valuable information to people there. But then he came to me and said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. My psyche is falling apart. Life feels black and white. When a person doesn't sleep at night, they lose the ability to see the colorful aspects of life. Everything appears in black and white. He said, I can't live like this. I told him, well, pray, my friend. He began to pray. He was very attached to his work, but he prayed because he couldn't live like that. He didn't know what else to do, and God helped. He ended up quarreling with everyone, everything around him collapsed, and eventually he found a normal, different kind of job, and now he is truly happy. Life can change completely. Maybe this is how things are for you now, but even on your way to work, you can pray silently or think about something pure and uplifting on the way. That time can still be used meaningfully. If you leave for work early in the morning, you can still use that time in a way that aligns with your inner capacity. When movement begins in the atmosphere and wind starts to stir, hunger naturally awakens in a person. At this time of day, the hunger you feel is not meant to be satisfied with heavy food. Heavy food includes grains, meat, and even vegetables. They are all considered heavy food in the morning. Vegetables in particular are best digested under the moonlight, which means they are more suitable to be eaten in the second half of the day, not the first. In the first half of the day, you should eat foods that lift your energy upward. These include practically all dried fruits, honey, and dairy products like sour cream and kefir. Milk should be consumed before sunrise. If a woman, for example, is trying to restore her hormonal functions in the body or struggling to conceive, drinking milk and dairy cream before sunrise is especially beneficial. She should drink a small amount of dairy cream early in the morning before sunrise, that is before 7:30 in your local time. This helps restore hormonal functions. She can also drink just milk. It doesn't have to be warm, but it must be boiled beforehand to eliminate parasites like tapeworms and so on. Diseases like brucellosis are also present in raw milk. Those bacteria love milk, but they'll end up loving you too. So be sure to boil it first. This boiling process disinfects it and makes it safe to drink. Juices are also suitable in the morning, especially fruit juices, as fruit juices raise your energy. Vegetable juices, on the other hand, have a calming effect and are better suited for later in the day. So in the morning, it's best to eat fruits and dried fruits, but not all kinds. For example, melon and watermelon are not exactly fruits, so to say they are more like berries and should be eaten at a different time of day. Bananas are fruits, so eat them in the morning. In fact, all the fruits you are familiar with should be eaten in the morning. Now think for a moment. How do fruits ripen? Where do most fruits grow? Take, for example, sunny Italy or sunny Georgia. Come to my home, I've got everything, peaches, oranges, whatever you like. I have it all, it's all here, all yours. Why? Because there is a lot of sun there now. When I went to Novosibirsk, I saw how quickly potatoes grow there. There is little sun, but vegetables grow just fine. Why? Because the influence of the moon is the same all over the earth. By the way, vegetables in India, where there is a lot of sun, are less tasty than vegetables in Russia. That is a fact. Why is that? Because in places with little sun and a lot of moonlight, vegetables become juicier, bigger, nicer looking, and firmer. Why? When do vegetables grow? Gardeners will tell you, at night. You might look at a cucumber in the evening and it's still small, but by morning it has already grown. Vegetables grow under the moonlight. Oatmeal, by the way, is not ideal for the morning. That's the problem. Grains ripen under the sun. When do grains start ripening? When the sun is high in the sky. What about apples? When do they become sweet and ripe? Only when there is a lot of sun. If the year is cloudy, apple trees produce green, unripe fruit. Apples don't ripen. They need sun to fully ripen. And they are digested under the sun too. They provide solar energy. That's why early in the morning, though not too early, but once the morning breeze has stirred around 7:30 in Riga, you start to feel hungry. So you should eat what is appropriate and suitable. If you don't, life won't exactly be a bed of roses. Raspberries, for example, can be eaten in the morning. Sweet berries and nuts can also be eaten in the morning because they ripen under sunlight. Dairy products like cottage cheese are good for the morning as well. I will explain morning nutrition in detail now if you'd like. In winter, it's best to eat sour cream because it warms you up. In winter, cheese and dried fruits are ideal in the morning. Fresh fruits cool the body, but dried fruits warm you up. We also have sweet spices, which are also meant to be eaten in the morning. These include fennel, cardamom, cumin, anise, and star anise, also known as red anise. Saffron and cinnamon are also sweet spices. All of these are suitable for being eaten in the morning. They provide strength in the morning. If someone feels gloomy or depressed, it means they lack solar energy. It means that solar energy isn't rising in them. Optimism in a person's character is a sign that solar energy is active and rising. If there is no optimism, the person walks around like in the song, "Sadness and melancholy are eating me up. I am the only one to walk around unmarried." He drifts through the day feeling depressed, sluggish, heavy, gloomy, no light inside. This happens when the sun doesn't rise for a person in the morning because they sleep too long and it becomes ingrained in their body. The sun doesn't lift them up. They have lost their reflex to the sun. But look at little children in the morning. They never let their parents sleep. They start crawling early in the morning. Mom is sleeping, but the little ones are already crawling all over her. Why? Because it's time to get up. Mom says, "I'll sleep a little longer," but the kids keep crawling. Why? Because the sun naturally energizes small children, prompting them to get up and start running around. Meanwhile, adults are already worn out. They've become like animals and struggle to get up early. In the summer, you should eat fresh fruits if you are not feeling cold. If you do feel cold, opt for dried fruits, even in summer. In summer, you should eat fresh berries, especially sweet ones, in the morning. You should also drink kefir and eat cottage cheese in the morning, as they help cool you down. Fermented baked milk can be consumed both in summer and winter. It has a neutral effect, neither cooling nor heating. If you lack optimism, you should only eat sweet foods in the morning. It's crucial to understand that if you wake up feeling hungry and think, "I want to eat, I feel that I have no strength, I need to eat something substantial," you are mistaken. Because substantial foods in the morning are exactly those I listed, and also nuts, honey, and everything sweet. Even diabetics can eat these foods in the morning without their sugar levels rising, as the rising sun doesn't let the sugar levels rise. Regarding white sugar, it's crucial to recognize that a sweet taste is vital for everyone because it boosts optimism. For women, sweet taste also supports normal hormonal functions. Thus, sweet taste is extremely important, especially for women. Some women believe that cutting out sweets will make them more beautiful. However, that's not true. They won't be more beautiful. They'll be walking around pale and unhappy. Why? Because sweet taste contributes to a woman's beauty. If women skip sweet foods in the morning, they crave sweets throughout the day, which isn't always healthy, especially if a woman eats sweets at night. This is very harmful to their health. Then they suddenly realize that their beauty has faded away. In spring, the sun rises earlier, so you need to increase the amount of fruit you eat in the morning. In autumn, as the sun sets earlier, the amount of fruits should be reduced. This means that heavier foods should be included more in your morning diet, and lighter foods should be decreased. Lunch should ideally be around 11 o'clock in the morning. Based on your schedule in Riga, it would be best to have lunch between 12 and 2, specifically from 12:30 to 2. Lunch should include all 6 tastes because the sun is high and digestion is strong. All 6 tastes should be present. This will provide complete protein nutrition. If you want to combine several dishes, I'll explain how to do it. You should start with something sweet, preferably with a drink. The drink should be sweetened, as this helps activate digestion. Next, the meal should include salads, that is, raw vegetables. However, avoid eating fruits at lunch altogether. They cool down digestion, and this is harmful. After salads, you should consume whatever is boiled. It's best to start with boiled soup, and at the end enjoy a tiny bit of something sweet, just a tiny bit. The sweet taste both begins and concludes the meal. A sweet drink starts the meal, and a small amount of something sweet finishes it. I understand that a small amount can be relative, especially for some women. A small piece of cake might mean half a cake, but I'm referring to a truly small portion. You should keep this in mind. Yogurt is permitted at lunch, and all fermented milk products are also allowed. However, fresh milk is not necessary. In general, you shouldn't drink milk during the day, as it will be digested under the moonlight and has a negative impact on health if consumed during daylight hours. That's why scientists have pronounced milk harmful. In fact, it is incredibly beneficial. It is one of the most beneficial products on earth, as it soothes both the subtle energy body and the physical body. If someone struggles with sleep, they should drink a little hot milk with honey in the evening. Cow's milk is the best option. Especially for the psyche. There are actually 6 types of milk. We know only 2. Ayurveda describes 6 types of milk, each of which is intended for specific purposes. For instance, goat's milk is beneficial for strengthening health, but you don't need to strengthen health in the evening. Instead, the emphasis should be on nurturing your psyche and mental well-being. That's why hot milk is consumed in the evening. You can drink goat's milk in the morning, ideally before sunrise. It gives strength to recover from diseases. Camel milk enhances digestion. However, it's not effective in its fresh form, so it's typically consumed as a type of camel kumis. The same applies to horse milk. It also boosts strength and helps combat diseases such as, for example, tuberculosis. It significantly enhances immunity. I won't talk about elephant milk and similar topics, as that's a different discussion altogether. We can't discuss everything. We have other subjects to cover as well. After lunch, it's important to rest, but the type of rest varies from person to person. For someone who has a lot of internal heat in the body and feels very hot all the time, it's beneficial to lie down on their left side for a while after eating. Do you know how to lie on your left side? Just lie down like this on your left side and stay in this position for about 20 minutes. If a person has a lot of air, that is, if a person is very active, a bit fidgety, and constantly feels cold, they should take a walk after eating. For those who are prone to obesity, it's best to just sit and rest after a meal. Why is that? Because if someone with a lot of internal fire walks around, it can lead to excessive digestion due to the movement. Conversely, if a person has a lot of air in their system and lies down after eating, their food will not digest properly since they lack sufficient internal fire. Their food will get stuck. They need to move around to aid digestion. For individuals who tend to gain weight, lying down can cause their food to turn into fat. However, if they move or walk, the fire from their stomach will go into the body. These are specific laws in this regard. In general, after eating, from noon until 6 in the evening, it's time for active work. This period should be dedicated to people. A person should work actively. Morning exercise is great and evening exercise is great, but these should be completely different. After 6 o'clock in the evening, it's important to spend time with family. The evening is meant for relaxation and healing. It's a perfect time for therapeutic gymnastics like Qigong or gentle gymnastics. Some Qigong exercises are best practiced in the morning, while others are more suited for the evening. Similarly, for example, Hatha Yoga, often considered a form of yoga gymnastics, is ideally done on an empty stomach, which makes morning the best time to practice it. It's also important to know how to get out of bed properly. As soon as you rise, the first thing you must do is wash yourself with water. This is because at this time, befoulment is removed from the subtle energy body. Water affects the subtle energy body, not just the physical body. Washing brings vigor into consciousness, so one should wash themselves first, and only then proceed with practices like meditation, prayer, and so on. It's also important to understand that early in the morning before washing, you must brush your teeth, clean your tongue, and relieve yourself. both defecation and urination, so that the body is free of impurities. All this should be done before washing, because the act of washing purifies the body and removes befoulment. After washing, it is best to go straight into prayer. If a shower isn't available, replace washing with wiping. For example, in a private home, you can wipe yourself with a wet towel. This also serves as a form of washing. And in the evening, before going to sleep, a person should wish happiness to everyone, ask for forgiveness from people, and forgive everyone. This can be done sitting or lying down. One should make peace and establish harmonious relationships with everyone they interacted with during the day. Only after that should they go to sleep. This is necessary because if these proper relationships are not established, subtle energetic ties can form that destroy the consciousness during the night. Also, you should avoid watching anything that stirs intense emotions before going to bed. Why? Because when you watch this before bed, the next episode starts during the night. All these movies, all these shows are connected to spirits. Spirits are subtle living beings that parasitize our psyche. If you watch a detective show on TV, for example, it starts like this. There's silence, someone walks, then they run, and so on. And then it ends sadly, and in the end they find them, kill them. What's the point of watching it? It's all the same. Then you go to bed, and your second episode starts at night, because the spirits won't leave you alone. Then there's a disruption of the daily routine. I'll explain all the implications and then you can check yourself to see if I'm right or wrong. Deal? If a person overeats at night, the food is poorly digested and turns into toxins. The sun has already set. There are several ways of digestion. If food is digested using the energy of the mind, it means mental activity will weaken. When is food digested using the energy of the mind? When the sun sets, the mind is still very strong, still active. For example, if you ate well at 4 or 5 p.m., the sun cannot digest this food anymore, so you will digest it using your mental energy. Let's say you plan to write your dissertation. Forget about it. Why? Because if you have a big meal, all your mental energy will go into your stomach. You'll look at your dissertation the way a donkey looks at new gates. I'm speaking simply, excuse me. So you need to have a proper eating culture. It greatly helps preserve your ability to live. Because if a person eats too early, eats too much, thinking, I'll eat now and be able to work normally, you are wrong. When you eat too early, you fill your body with food, which is good. But now, for you to work well, that food still needs to be digested, but the sun hasn't risen yet. In the desert, there's silence, and the sun hasn't risen yet, but you are eating heavily. What happens next? When the sun rises, the body realizes it cannot digest, so it starts to quickly get rid of this food. The stomach starts contracting heavily. This is exactly what happens early in the morning. The intestines and stomach start to work. The intestines work to push the undigested food out of the body. So when do you usually feel the urge to go to the bathroom? Not immediately early in the morning, but a little later. Or early in the morning, if your intestines are actively working during the night, then yes, it's in the morning. But if you ate well in the morning, what happens? All this food gets pushed through very quickly, and by around 3 p.m. you'll feel hungry again, but it's too late. You ate at 3 p.m. and now it's too late to eat, and you spend the whole day feeling bad because nothing is being digested. But you can't sleep either because only by around 9 or 10 p.m. does the food you ate later begin to digest. This means active digestion starts, which activates the mind, making you want to do something, but it's already time to sleep. Then, to fall asleep, the person has to calm this activity down, and they end up eating late at night too. 4 meals a day. In general, it's important to know that if a person eats something slightly sweet early in the morning, they have active productivity because everything digests well and they build up an appetite by noon. They can eat a big meal at this time. They can eat as much as they need because sometimes there is a strong desire to eat well. This desire should be satisfied at this time because no matter how much you eat, you won't want to eat again until 6 or 7 p.m. In this case, even if you feel like eating, your food has been so well digested that you need very little. In the evening, you should eat stewed vegetables, not too salty or spicy, just plain stewed vegetables without any extras. If your body has too much air and you're feeling cold, then stewed vegetables in the evening are good for you. If your body has too much fire, you feel hot, tired, and overheated, you should eat fruits in the evening to cool down, or dried fruits. Vegetable juices are also good to drink in the evening, especially for people who are prone to gaining weight. If you're trying to lose weight, beet juice in the evening is a great idea. It will help you shed those extra pounds. Just drinking fresh beet juice in the second half of the day will help a person lose weight. This is 100% fact. You don't need laxatives or any strong products, just beet juice in the afternoon, and that's it. The weight will come off. If a person overeats at night, what happens? Please note this down and check later. If a person eats too much at night, first, it disrupts the hormonal functions in women. The person gains weight, loses complexion, and the skin becomes loose, losing its tone. Cellulite also forms because of overeating at night. If you want to be beautiful, it is extremely important to eat properly in the evening. The body fills with toxins at night while you sleep. From midnight, the sun begins to rise. At this time, energy rises as well. And with this energy, toxins that have formed in the body from undigested food rise too. They rise, and the level they reach in the body varies from person to person. For some people who ate late at night, these toxins accumulate in the bronchial area, and when they wake up, they cough it up and say, "I caught a cold again last night." But no, they didn't catch a cold. It's just toxins coming to the surface. For others, toxins rise to the throat, causing a sore throat in the morning. For others, it reaches the tongue, causing swelling and inflammation in the mouth and nasopharynx. And for some, toxins rise to the head, resulting in a heavy, dull headache. So toxins can rise to different levels in the body depending on a person's constitution. And for everyone, if you eat late every night, toxins will fill your head, and you will experience headaches, high blood pressure, insomnia, and many other similar issues. If toxins accumulate heavily in the chest, it could lead to chronic bronchitis or even asthma, all due to undigested food consumed at night. Also, you need to understand that the fire element should be directed to the stomach during meals. Therefore, you should eat without distractions. Think about something elevated, wish happiness for others, and eat calmly, chewing thoughtfully. When you eat in a calm state, your food will digest properly. What should you eat? You should eat food that has been prepared with love for God. A friend of mine whom I stayed with in Izhevsk lives in a wooden house. He helps build an Orthodox church near Izhevsk on the outskirts. He told me that he went to Valam, and what he remembered most was when they gave him bread and milk at the end of a tour through the churches. It was already evening, and they gave him bread and milk. He ate this food given to him by a monk. Monks cooked their own food, and he felt such happiness from eating this food which had been prepared with prayer. What was it that he ate? He simply ate bread. Just ordinary bread, but because it was prepared with prayer, it became nectar. If you cook everything at home with prayers and think about something elevated, the food takes on special properties. It becomes incredibly healthy, incredibly powerful, and can even change a person's fate. Food is a very important aspect of life. If you eat at some fast food place, and people prepare the food just to sell it to you, then you are consuming not just the food, but also the energy of greed, anger, and desire they infused into that food. Every person needs to learn that food culture is important. You should eat food prepared with love for God and made by loved ones, acquaintances, or friends. But you should never eat in a restaurant, unless, of course, the restaurant food is prepared with love. Then it's a different matter. But such restaurants are very rare. They exist for sure, but there are very few of them. It's better to cook with focus, not in a rush, as some women do, throwing things together, mixing them, running off. Turn off the stove. I'm leaving. That's fine. The question is, what will you be eating afterward? You can cook quickly, but you must concentrate and cook with love, with prayer. This is an important process. You should know that. I'm not making this up. Try eating this way. You'll see how much your quality of life improves. It's 100% fact. Another important point I want to make is that a person should not justify their failure to follow a daily routine. Some people say, I'm a night owl. I'm an early bird. I'll explain this to you now. The thing is, depending on your fate, people are born at different times. If a person is born between midnight and 6 a.m., it's a blessing for early rising. This person will want to get up early and they will be happy in the morning. If a person is born between 6 a.m. and noon, it will be harder for them to get up early, but they will be very active during the first half of the day. If a person is born between noon and 6 p.m., it will be much harder for them to get up early, but their mental activity will wake up during working hours. They will work very actively and love working. If a person is born between 6 p.m. and midnight, it will be the hardest for them to get up. And such a person will also find it difficult to go to bed on time. These people call themselves night owls. They have a very hard time falling asleep, but this doesn't mean they should go to bed late, because that would destroy their psyche. Whether you're a night owl or not, before fate, we are all eagles when we are healthy, but later we become cuckoos. So we must learn to live properly, otherwise there will be serious health issues. About 10 years ago, I did a live broadcast on the radio in Moscow. People asked me questions for 2 hours. We only talked about this topic. People asked me about their problems. I would ask, what time do you get up? What time do you have lunch? What time do you go to bed? Do you do this or that? I have such and such a problem. You don't do such and such. Almost 90% of people said yes, yes, yes. Why? Because it all really works. And this broadcast was later repeated because it became very popular. Many people didn't realize how strongly the daily routine is connected to our health and fate. There is a very, very strong connection. That's why people, especially those with active lives who manage companies and have very intellectual lives, need to strictly follow their daily routines. Otherwise, problems will arise. All serious decisions should be made before lunch. If you want to implement those decisions in life, it should be done between midnight and 6 a.m. If you want to understand the decision in your heart, it must happen before you wake up. To understand how to live properly, you need to do so by 7:30 Riga time, before the sun rises. That's how it should be. Even serious people should reflect on this, because some think, I'm cool, what do I need the sun for? The sun is even more powerful than we can imagine. It can either crush a person or bring them back to life, give them life. Are there any questions on this topic? Here's a question. Can you not eat in the evening? You know, the ideal option is to eat once a day. Water in the morning, water in the evening, and eat very well at lunch. But it's different for everyone. For example, I don't eat at all in the morning, and I only eat fruit in the evening and have a full meal at lunch. I've been living like this for about 10 years. I feel great. I have a very good routine. It all depends on how calmly a person can live and handle it. If a person's mind is very tense, they need to eat more frequently. It's also important to know that women need to eat more frequently because a woman's mind is 6 times more active than a man's. So women need to eat. Women nibble throughout the day, while men eat big meals. So men should eat their big meal at lunch, and women should nibble throughout the day, but at lunch they should eat a little more, along with their husband. You understand the idea? But women should nibble on time, meaning you shouldn't snack on sweet foods in the evening because it seriously harms women's health. If you have infertility especially, and you do this, your health will be ruined. How to pray effectively? It's a whole science. It's more effective if you record the voice of a holy person, and it will sound together with you because strength comes into the mind through sound. The sound of the holy person resonates, you read with them, you gain strength, and faith comes through the sound of the holy person. It's effective to light candles because the energy of fire activates candles, giving noble fire. Fiery energy activates the candles, activates the mind, and the mind is purified from it, especially if candles are lit in front of the altar, and so on. It's effective to read in front of the image of a holy person or in front of the altar, depending on your tradition. I don't know, since everyone has their own way. In Islam, for example, you can't look at images. In that case, close your eyes or half close them and listen to the sound, because it's important to understand that prayer is meant for listening, and it should resonate in the heart. Some people pray with their head. I wish everyone happiness, I wish everyone happiness, I wish everyone happiness. How long have I been wishing already? This is called mental activity. It has nothing to do with wishing happiness to everyone. Some people think, now I'll wish everyone well, and they start emotionally wishing with their throat center. I wish everyone happiness. It doesn't work. Because this is just an external activity again. A person must focus on the heart. This concentration is connected to life. It brings real changes to fate. You need to repeat very deeply, I wish everyone happiness, and try to understand what happiness is. It's love for God, some higher understanding of happiness. And also, I won't give any specific prayers because you all have your own prayers, but I am sharing some general principles with you. Now the next question. My thoughts are constantly distracted. If there's a cat walking nearby, my gaze shifts from the photo to the clock, to the window, and back. How do I stop being addicted to porn websites? This is the second question. Let's address the first one now. They are very connected to each other. The thing is, there is internal life and external life. When a person's senses are directed outward, the most powerful effect of the senses is the body of the opposite sex, and that is what excites the person so much. Until the senses are turned inward, it's very hard for a person to distract themselves from all these internet images. So how do you turn the senses inward? Senses are turned inward through spiritual knowledge. It's not just about sitting and trying to force yourself to pray. You need to study what life is about. For example, if you have difficulties at work, study it. Take an image of a holy person, play the sound of a holy person, sit up straight. During prayer, you should not lie down or walk, because when you walk, the mind gets involved. You need to sit still. There are a few body positions, I've already told you. I'll repeat it again. If a person sits on their knees straight, they develop determination and the will to achieve their goal. If a person kneels down, it means they are capable of overcoming difficulties. In other words, they are setting themselves up for victory. If a person stands while praying, they are developing patience within themselves. If a person sits with their legs crossed and prays, they develop concentration of attention. If a person sits with their legs crossed, when one leg over the other, they develop the ability to accept situations in life, to adapt, and get used to what is happening. Different body positions yield different results. But the ultimate result is the same. The mind must concentrate during prayer, and it becomes concentrated when it sees the utmost necessity. This won't happen immediately. But if you understand that you might be fired from work, don't think, God help me keep my job. Don't think like that. Just love the holy person or pray to God. You should think about your relationship with God. Don't worry, He knows that you need help staying at work. Don't think He's so foolish that He doesn't know what's happening or that you have to explain it to Him. You don't need to explain anything. Just pray. Establish a connection with God. Pray selflessly and learn selflessness. Then observe what happens at work. Your fate depends on them, so fate is focused on them. Study this. This is called spiritual science. You study, and later you'll see that it works. That means in the morning, when a difficult moment comes, you'll be able to concentrate and pray with all your strength. Why? Because you know that it will help. It's the only thing that can help. The mind concentrates when there is necessity. When a person doesn't understand the necessity, they just do it without studying anything. Then even a cat will distract them, and anything else will. And naked bodies will appear right in front of their faces during prayer. They will appear because there's a necessity in them, but in the prayer, there's none. A person doesn't see happiness in it yet. And they look at the image of the holy person, but the buttocks block the image of the holy person, not allowing them to see the image of the holy person. Why? Because there is necessity in them. There is no necessity in the image of the holy person. Therefore, you must first develop spiritual knowledge within yourself, and then prayer will become important. This is called faith. Faith means you clearly understand that there is deep meaning in this. And all of this comes through experience. You must compare what is happening, study it all. You must consciously try to live meaningfully. This means watching what happens and not closing your eyes. I'm praying, and that's it. No, look at what happens, and then your life will change. And when your life changes, the porn websites will disappear from your life. They will leave as they came, because fighting with them is impossible. This is a force that a person cannot control within themselves. However, if a person, as said in the Vedas, has tasted honey, sugar no longer seems as sweet. Spiritual love for God, spiritual energy, is thousands of times sweeter than any material relationships. Even the sweetest ones, as we may think at first. And these relationships take a back seat. It's not that you become impotent. No, they just don't seem as important. You don't get shaken by them. In other words, it's a normal, calm reaction. And you don't need to watch all this on the internet. There's no great necessity. Therefore, you don't need to solve this second question on your own. The solution will come in time. And if it hasn't come, then you need to endure. There is a method. When the buttocks appear in front of your eyes, continue the prayer. It will leave on its own. The next pair of buttocks will appear. Gradually, they will all leave if you concentrate on the prayer. Next question. Director is constantly removing the salary component from his employee and leaving only a percentage of the deals. Next month, there are no deals and there's no salary. You mentioned in your lectures that a man should not leave his job and look for a new one on his own, but now living without a salary has become impossible. A good question. This is exactly the difficulty of fate. This next topic is about vows, forgiveness, humility. You just need to understand that the person is in a situation where they won't be able to do anything on their own. This is where help from higher forces is needed, because if you quit your job, you'll be left without any work at all. Where can you find a job in Latvia now? So this is a tough situation in life, and this is already something that can be solved with the help of higher forces. Advice won't help here. Telling your boss, "Give me my salary." He might not have money, that's why he's not paying. There are different situations, so advice is useless here. You just have to find strength from outside, not from within during this time. By outside, I mean from higher forces. You can try using connections to find a new job. How does a person act? First, they are trying to change the situation with their own strength, then with the help of acquaintances, friends, lawyers, strong personalities, and so on. If it doesn't help, they try asking for help from a mentor, older spiritually mature people. If that doesn't help, then prayer is the only option. There are no other options. And what does it mean to pray? Prayer, in the literal sense, means establishing a relationship with God, to be direct. Establishing a relationship with God, nothing more. How to do this? Everyone has their own tradition, and there's no point in imposing something. If I say to pray like this, then all other traditions seem meaningless. I don't have a different opinion. I also have my own spiritual tradition, but I don't consider all other traditions meaningless, because I try to study them, see how people develop in them, and I see that it all works. Of course, there is nonsense. There are traditions, and there is a wrong understanding of spiritual life. In some spiritual traditions, there is a false understanding of spiritual life, which destroys a person's fate. For example, this happened with those two young girls who decided that for God, they had to kill everyone. That terrorist attack in Moscow occurred. Devout people took their lives for God. But God doesn't need that. God doesn't need us to kill others. This is a philosophical mistake. They went down the wrong path. They misunderstood the true, pure faith. I know many Muslims, very good people, but they misunderstood this spiritual tradition, so the result was also sad. There are serious philosophical mistakes that foster hatred in the heart, animosity towards other faiths, and other forms of elevated human life. This is wrong. This leads to the stagnation of a person's spiritual growth. Next question. I constantly don't get enough sleep because of noisy neighbors and relatives. I can't change my place of residence. My nervous system is suffering. Good question. I studied this topic, and it turns out, in reality, it's not the noise that disrupts sleep, but the attitude. For example, I did a test. If a wife loves her husband and he snores loudly, she falls asleep to that snoring. She really likes it. She thinks, is he not snoring? Maybe something happened to him. She goes to check. Is he asleep or dead? Why isn't he snoring? She wakes up when he stops snoring. When he starts snoring, she thinks, good sleep, my dear, and falls asleep. Everything's fine. If he's snoring, it means he's sleeping. If he's sleeping, he'll be healthy, strong, and kind. Let him snore. Thank God. She falls asleep. If a wife doesn't love her husband, he starts snoring, she can't fall asleep. Why? Because she doesn't love him. So the method is very simple. Try to love your neighbors. I'll give you an example which actually happened in life, and the person was essentially on the brink of death from the issue that was just mentioned. In Moscow, an elderly woman came to me for a consultation with tears in her eyes and explained the situation. They have 2 rooms in a private house. Her son comes home drunk from work in the evening and at night turns on the television loudly in his room. And he watches it and he's delirious, either sleeping or not sleeping. When she tries to turn off the TV, he wakes up. When he turns on the TV, it calms him down and he falls asleep to it. And he's chasing her around the apartment, not giving her any peace, acting aggressively in a drunken state. She can't sleep at night. It's been over a year now, and she's developed real signs of sleep disruption. Her blood pressure started fluctuating. I suggested she start praying for her son, wishing him happiness, and trying to forgive him. This process of forgiveness lasted for about 4 to 5 months for her. She's a very serious person, a former teacher in her younger years. She began praying earnestly, forgiving him, and at some point she just forgave him. Everything shifted, and as soon as she forgave him, she fell asleep right away and started sleeping soundly. Then something amazing happened. He started to turn off the TV, and gradually everything started to improve between them. I'm not sure what happened next, but this fact, her falling asleep because she forgave him, was clearly evident in this situation. So try doing the same thing. You really have no other option. Next question. My child has been diagnosed with allergies to cats, dogs, and dust mites. My son wants a dog. Well, kids are unreasonable, right? Who knows what they want? You have to control your child's desires, otherwise he might want to jump in front of a car, right? I'm not going to talk about the allergies. It's a skin issue, a disease of fire. Fire builds up in the skin and mucous membranes, which causes the allergies. You just need to find a cooling oil and apply it to the skin. This is an Ayurvedic method. Fire will dissipate and coolness will take over, which will ease allergic symptoms significantly. But you should ask more about life, not health. Next question, please explain the time difference in Riga. If you stick a stake in the ground at noon by solar time, the shadow will point north. This means the sun is directly overhead at noon. But since we're so clever, at this time in Riga, the clocks show 1:38 p.m. Do you understand what solar time means versus Riga time? We can have both daylight savings time and standard time, whatever you want. There's solar time, that's the real time. Everything else is something we made up. It doesn't work like that. We need to live by solar time. Next question. How should a pregnant woman control her body and desires? Should she do this? Good question. The first thing to know, pregnant women, nursing mothers, and children up to 7 years old live by the moon. In other words, the moon has a strong influence on them, so a nursing mother's routine is flexible, as is the routine of children under 7, and pregnant women also have a flexible routine. How should a pregnant woman eat? She needs to carefully listen to what she wants to eat, and eat exactly that. Because it's what her body needs right now. Her body is telling her what it needs. The only thing is that there are certain foods that are inherently unsuitable and should be limited, whether you want to or not. These are coffee, tea, cigarettes, meat, eggs, and chicken. These foods should be consumed less because they don't increase happiness and they pollute the mind. Coffee contains a drug, caffeine, which significantly strains the mind, and withdrawal symptoms occur. So the person drinks coffee, it stimulates them greatly, but later it leaves them feeling relaxed due to the caffeine. Then they crave more coffee because they think, my energy is low again, so they drink more coffee. The same applies to tea. It also contains caffeine. Black tea is fermented, while green tea is the real tea. Black tea doesn't grow black, It's simply fermented, that's why it turns black. It's essentially the same as green tea. Next question. I wake up at 3 a.m. and feel fine all day, but between 8 and 9 a.m. I experience a sharp weakness and drowsiness. What should I do? When a person is actively engaged in spiritual practice and the sun rises at 7 a.m., they need to rest during this time. Some people need to lie down for 20 minutes while others need to sit. If a person lies down and can't get up for 2 hours, that means they need to rest while sitting up. Sit down, put your head on the table, and stay like that as long as you can. When you feel everything starting to stiffen, get up and you'll feel refreshed. But if you wake up by yourself after 15-20 minutes, then it's fine to lie down and rest. If someone is actively engaged in spiritual practice and they're running low on energy, they need a short rest. This is normal during this time, and it doesn't harm your health. Next question. I was born at 10 p.m. and I really struggle with falling asleep and waking up. My younger child is 2.5 years old, and he wakes up at midnight and doesn't sleep until 3 a.m. How can I restore our sleep rhythms? You just need to try to restore them. By God's grace, everything will come in its own time. You just need to be patient. You need to try living correctly, and gradually everything will improve. Understand? We are punished by time. Why is a person born this way? Because it's a punishment. If we are punished by time, meaning by God, then this punishment will continue, but gradually everything will be set right. You just need to gradually do things as you should. And over time, everything will get better. This is general advice, and it always works. Just understand the necessity. Realize that what motivates a person to do the right thing is awareness. Awareness comes through listening, so if you feel like you can't live the right way, listen to this lecture again, because I've been living this way for many, many years, and I know for sure it works. You'll listen to it and you'll feel like, yes, it works. It will inspire you to do it again. Gradually, your own knowledge will come into your heart, and you'll be able to do it yourself. Knowledge and understanding are different things. You may understand to some extent what's happening. During the lecture, you might think, yes, this is good. Maybe I'll do it this way. But this means there's no true knowledge. Knowledge is when you feel that you can't live without it, when you feel that it works. It becomes something you must do. That means knowledge has come from within. It usually comes with practice. Simply listening doesn't give deep knowledge, but if someone listens very seriously, they can even understand everything through listening alone. That means they have a strong and pure intelligence. Next question, how can I learn to truly love myself? Good question, and the hardest one. To truly love yourself, you need to pay less attention to yourself and more attention to others. This means the following. Some people work on themselves. Literally speaking, it means that they don't have time for their children or spouse because I always need to work on myself. But they don't understand my elevated nature. Because in reality, I'm working on myself for them, so that they can be very happy with me. Let them cook, wash, clean. The main thing is that they're happy with me. This is called selfishness, but it works subtly. The person seems to do good things. They pray, wish everyone happiness, do nice things, but they don't have time for their loved ones. That means their sense of self-worth is working incorrectly. If you want to correct your sense of self-worth, that's great. You need to do everything for others. Pray for your loved ones in the morning, and when it's time to cook, cook for them. Do everything not for yourself. When you go to work, don't think about your salary or yourself, but try to work for everyone. When a person acts not for themselves all the time, their sense of self-worth functions very correctly. When they've done something wrong, they feel, I did it wrong. When they've done something right, they think, I'm happy it worked out this way. When they've done something right, they think, it wasn't me. Seniors helped. God helped. When they've done something wrong, they think, I was wrong. I need to do it properly. That's when their sense of self-esteem works correctly. But in modern psychology, there are some schools of thought that say otherwise. For a person's self-esteem to work properly, they need to love themselves. I am the sun, I am big and bright sun. My ego is inflating more and more, becoming bigger and bigger, like a soap bubble. Then, if someone, God forbid, touches me and says, hey, big bright sun, when are you going to cook? This ego then bursts. Because of these bad people, I lose my composure. You understand? This method doesn't work. So if you want to be happy with yourself, you need to learn to forget about yourself because we tend to remember ourselves too much. This is false egoism. The ability to remember God and others is true egoism, which belongs to the soul. It has an eternal spiritual nature. Developing it is very, very difficult. For this, you need a mentor because false egoism is very tricky. It takes on various complex forms that are very hard to understand in yourself. Often, good things lead to family breakdowns. For example, after this lecture, you might come home and say, you know where I was? I was in a good place with good people, and tomorrow we're all waking up at 5 a.m. They might respond, listen, what's going on? Where have you been? This is how a family can break apart. Knowledge is given to be applied gently and lovingly towards others in life. That means you can wake up quietly so no one notices and don't disturb their sleep. If your husband wakes up and asks, why are you up? You should say, I'm praying in the morning so everything goes well for you at work. He will reply, keep going, keep going. That's how you should do it, not saying, everyone get up, and then sleeping at the same time. Don't wake your husband up with cold water in the morning. You shouldn't do that. Next question, how can I protect myself from stress and nervous breakdowns if by nature I take everything to heart? To protect yourself. If by nature you can't stop taking everything to heart, then you need to stop focusing on yourself and start thinking about others. And immediately the stress will be less because as long as a person is focused on themselves, everything interferes with their happiness. Especially when your husband, that fool, doesn't understand your delicate nature. Is that clear? Egoism is a very tricky thing. It's hard to see it in yourself, especially for women, because their psyche is very refined. All the flaws are obvious in the husband, while he sees his wife as an angel. He doesn't notice any flaws. But she sees all his flaws. That's why she constantly gets offended and says, how are you treating me? Do you even realize who you're dealing with? To avoid thinking this way, you need to learn to serve your loved ones, and then the false understanding of yourself will go away. Let me continue because we're going in a bit of a different direction here. I'll answer all the questions. Next topic. So, we'll continue with what we haven't covered yet. Our topic today is self-control. We're talking about controlling the body. If a person doesn't follow a daily routine, controlling the body is impossible. The body will constantly torment you and create big problems in life. If you don't follow a routine, the body will constantly strain and relax at the wrong times, not digest properly, get sick, and so on. There's another very important factor in self-control which not only brings the body into balance but also the mind. This method of self-control is called vows. Vows form the right habits in working on yourself. You need to force yourself, you understand? You need to learn how to make yourself do things, but do it gently. Some people don't force themselves at all, while others are too harsh. Both extremes lead to the destruction of the psyche. To force yourself gently, your body must get used to making itself do things naturally, effortlessly. For that to happen, you need to make vows, but you need to make vows correctly. This is a whole science. For example, you decide to wake up earlier. How much earlier should you wake up? What do you think? 5 minutes earlier for some, 15 minutes for others, but not too much. Don't jump straight to 2 hours. You need to understand how to approach yourself. But you must understand this. You wake up 5 minutes earlier, but every day, let's say for a month. This is called a vow. A person must take small vows and keep them very seriously. That's where the science lies. Take a small vow and fulfill it seriously without deviating for even a second. For example, you decide to pray. You pray for 5 minutes, but every day. You can never skip, never do less than 5 minutes, always. When a person gets used to praying for 5 minutes feels like nothing. For example, I live about 5 or 6 blocks away, and it takes around 15 minutes to walk there. The first time I walked, I thought, this is a long way, I'm walking a lot. It was far. Now, after walking for so long, it just seems close. You walk, and you don't even notice how you arrive. Why is that? Because it's become a habit. A habit has formed. A person doesn't feel the mental effort they need to exert to do the same action. So in order to work on yourself, you need to build a bigger habit from smaller ones. So today you do a little, then a little more tomorrow. How long should you do morning exercises during the day? 2 minutes. If you do 2 minutes of exercise every day, after a year, you'll easily do 15 minutes. And more than that really isn't necessary. Do you understand the idea? What do vows do? Vows take something that is very hard to achieve and make it very easy to accomplish, like that. And vows have a big impact on fate. For example, a woman wants to get married, but she can't. There are many different reasons. One of them is not being able to control herself in relationships with men. She lets a man get too close to her. So she makes a small vow, I won't allow a man to touch me. You understand? I'm not saying she vows not to let a man pull her into bed. That kind of vow is hard to make because when that happens, a woman can't control herself anymore. But she makes a vow, I won't allow a man to touch me. If he starts to touch her, she pulls her hand away, and that's it. This means there won't be anything more until this woman decides for herself. A very simple vow. Simple, right? Is pulling your hand away easy, or is it hard?
Depends on who it is.
Depends on who it is. So you need to force yourself to learn. If it's hard for you to do, then start small. Learn to make yourself do something, because if there's no willpower at all, life still won't get better. After you slept with a man, his interest in you decreases dramatically. So if you want him to marry you, you need to make sure his desire to marry grows to the level that's necessary. This means you need to keep him at a distance until that time, so his attachment grows. How to do it is important knowledge. And willpower is developed through small vows. You need to push yourself a little in something and do it constantly. Next topic, forgiveness. The thing is, many people live fanatically and look at life blindly. They can't distinguish between good and bad. They don't understand where they can work and where they can't. It's hard for them to figure out how to relate to people, who is a good person and who is bad. Do you know the reason? Why do they lack this clarity? The reason is that they can't forgive. When someone hasn't forgiven another, it means that all the bad things related to that person are strongly connected in their mind, and they stop seeing good in that person. And people are all similar. Have you noticed? If you haven't forgiven one person, another similar person comes along, and they also seem bad, even though you've never met them or know anything about them. But they look similar or speak the same way. It means they're bad too, right? Or not? There's some kind of analogy happening, or a situation similar to one you've experienced in life, which gives you the feeling that it's a bad situation. In other words, it's the influence of a force that you can't control within yourself. So not forgiving situations or people creates an imbalance in how you perceive the world. This imbalance can grow to huge proportions. A person simply becomes angry, like a dog, and lashes out at everyone. This becomes a disease. This disease means that the failure to forgive has grown to enormous proportions. This happens over the years. If you want to be a very clear-minded person, to perceive life clearly and understand how to act, you need to learn to forgive every day. And there shouldn't be a single person in your life whose bad traits you haven't processed in your heart. The fire of love digests people's anger. The fire in the stomach digests food. The fire of love digests people's anger. If it remains undigested in the body, what do you think the result will be? There are a few options. The first option is malignant tumors. They always arise from accumulated anger in the body. Always. There is no other way. Undigested fire of human anger, which you can't process and understand as something given to you by fate that you need to accept, always leads to this sad result. The second option is a failed fate in terms of work. Fate just goes in different directions. Sometimes it goes into the body, and then there will be a malignant tumor. If it goes into the person's activity, it leads to the person becoming impoverished. They can't work because the anger affects everyone they try to establish business relationships with. They can't be around this person. The anger flows from their heart and interferes with establishing relationships. And the more they can't establish relationships with the person, the more anger grows again. It's a vicious circle. And the third option is an unhappy family life. Anger enters the family. Which options do you have? What do you prefer? None of it's sweet, so there's only one option. We must understand that everything is given to us by fate from God. We must accept everything in this life with gratitude. Because when a person accepts, they gain wisdom. There are two options. Either accumulate anger inside or accumulate wisdom. One of the two. If a person accepts an event, they become wiser. If they don't accept it, they become angrier. And angrier means unhappier. Therefore, forgiveness is a very important aspect of a pure life. A person who cannot forgive must focus all their energy on doing so. You see, when this obstacle in life is not overcome, then more obstacles will continue to accumulate. We know that if a small rapid forms in a river, then debris starts to get stuck on it, and it creates a whole pile. Later, to break it, you need a very strong flow of water. The river can turn into small streams. We can see how some rivers, when they carry a lot of sand, split into small streams at the mouth as they reach the sea. They become very small. The chance of drying up increases as a result. There's no single riverbed. The same can happen in a person's life if they accumulate dirt. One small obstacle stands in their way, and they can't overcome it. After that, more and more builds up, and it starts to snowball. A person can't live a full life like one flowing river. Everything divides and splinters. There's no complete happiness in life. It breaks into little pieces. It becomes very difficult. There are things that are easy to forgive. Someone steps on your foot, you forgive them a little and forget. It doesn't lodge deeply in the heart. But if a close person leaves you, or if someone has wronged your loved one, or if some serious harm has been done in your life, then that settles deeply in the heart. If a person doesn't practice spirituality, doesn't pray to God, doesn't ask for forgiveness, doesn't have experience in overcoming these challenges, it can sit in their heart for their whole life. It digs in deep. It may seem like it's gone, but if some similar serious event happens, it all flares up again. This means the barrier is still there. When the river flows cleanly, it just flows around that barrier. But when the debris comes, life becomes harder, and it starts to get stuck. That's why we need to learn to understand that there are two ways to live. One way is to simply accept life as it comes. You live the way life goes. This is a passive life, and it doesn't lead to happiness. The second way to live is to dedicate part of your life to overcoming fate. Overcoming fate is called inner life. It happens through sound. Inner life means prayer. There are many ways, visiting temples or sacred places. All these methods help a person get inspired to practice inner life. This too is inner life, and it provides help. But the most powerful effect comes when a person prays. It gives the greatest strength. Because prayer is the only way for the heart to burn with love, and love purifies everything. You need to accumulate love in your heart. Prayer accumulates love. Prayer means contact with God. God is the source of love. Through this contact, love in the heart increases. It processes all difficulties, problems, and injustices. It takes a long time to process, but when everything is processed, in 1 second, you stop thinking badly about that person. They become normal to you. You start seeing their good traits and good actions that you never noticed before. This means you're close. If you've seen at least a little bit of good in them, you're close. You've already processed the bad karma tied to this person. You've understood why they acted the way they did. You no longer doubt their actions, why they did it. You understand that it's normal and it can happen to anyone, even to me. Your heart is light when it comes to this person. This means you've processed their actions. That's it, you can move on. Now you can stop and study further, look at yourself, what irritates you, what you don't like, what you fear in your life. All of this needs to be processed with the help of prayer. Free yourself and your life from illusions, from the inability to be adequate and sober. The next thing that provides self-control is humility. You need to understand a simple thing. Bad events reveal our lack of humility, and good events nurture our lack of humility. Let me explain. It's very simple. When something good happens, what do we think? We think, I deserve this. When a person thinks like this, what happens? Their pride grows. I achieved this. Look at how many people came to the lecture. I achieved this. This is called pride. Pride means the dullness of the heart. Dullness means that a person doesn't understand what is really happening. In reality, we are very small here. We can't do anything by ourselves. There is grace. There are forces that help us do all of this. When a person receives some grace, they should be very grateful. Gratitude is the opposite feeling of pride. If a person wants to understand how much they pride themselves, they need to understand how much they are grateful. For example, something good happened in your life. You need to find who you are grateful to for this event. If you're not grateful to anyone, it means that pride, along with the event, has entered your heart. And what does pride do? It destroys the person and their good fate. If pride enters with a good event, then a bad event will come as well. That's 100% fact. Pride destroys common sense in a person. It makes them completely dumb in relation to what's going on. For example, a person is a great scientist. They have many achievements, and on their door there are many signs. Honored citizen of the Republic, professor, doctor of such and such sciences, such and such, such and such. You open the door, and who is sitting in front of you? A great, great person. How is this expressed? It means I. All right, a great person is sitting in this office. Let's see, who loves this great person? Does his wife love him? She suffers because when he comes home, he doesn't become smaller. He's just as big. This means he's tormenting her. He treats her the same way he treats his subordinates, demanding that she acts toward him as they do. Why? Because he can fire them if they don't behave like that. What are these relationships based on? Fear. Does he treat himself well, this great person? He would never say, I acted wrongly. They got in my way of doing it right, those idiots. This is the dullness of the heart. What does education truly mean? An educated person feels very humble. Humility is true education. If a person doesn't feel humble, they place themselves above others. That means they are uneducated. Their mind lacks true strength and purity. This is a big problem in a person's life. Therefore, one needs true education. True education means humility. At the end of his life, Einstein said, I now understand that science is infinitely vast, and understanding it is infinitely difficult, and I still know nothing about it. This means he reached perfection as a scientist. He began to feel that in relation to God he was very small. A tiny spark compared to the sun, that's how he saw himself. Humility means real sensations and seeing yourself in the correct light. How do you cultivate humility in yourself? For this, you need to understand that cultivating humility by yourself is practically impossible. You need someone to help. Because you won't notice your own pride, that's the hardest part. Pride is connected to a false ego. When a false ego enters the body, it causes pain. The more false ego a person has in their body, the more painful any touch becomes. If you touch them even a little, it hurts them. Women by nature have more false ego in their bodies. Therefore, women need softer clothing and a gentler approach in social relations. You must treat women with great care. You should never roughly grab a woman's hand. Because of the false ego in her body, it causes her great suffering. Men have a lot of false ego in their prana, subtle energy. Therefore, men need to be very gently urged to do something, especially when it involves action. If you say, go mop the floor, it will be difficult for him to get up and do it. If he says the same to a woman, she'll rush to do it and get it done. This is because women have less ego in their subtle energy while men have more. Women have more ego in their minds. Therefore, you shouldn't touch a woman's mind. You need to speak softly and gently. But men have more ego in their intelligence, so men need to be respected. That's the culture. You should look at them with respect, and then men will behave properly. You can't touch where ego exists. Know that ego is hardest to notice in intelligence, because intelligence notices everything, but if ego is in the intelligence, it means the person doesn't notice it at all. Therefore, every person, especially a man, needs a mentor. They need someone older who can say, hey buddy, you've gotten a bit proud of your position, and that immediately sobers them up, because when a wise person says it, there's no room for arguments. Thank you all very much. I wish you all happiness. I want to thank you for coming to the lecture. It was a pleasure to see you all here again. Thank you so much. All the best and goodbye. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.